such sequence is a sentence. But sentence has a double meaning. It is also a term of incarceration imposed by a judge. As the criminal is sentenced in the court of law, so words are sentenced in the court of explication. And here in this court, academics are both judge and jury, both author and reviewers. Between them, they conspire to hold all words captive and to prevent their escape into sentient life. And yet, ironically, the very word sentence comes from the same root as sentience and has acquired its current meanings in the fields of both language and law from the repression of feeling. And it's a repression, clearly, for which most academics feel a shadow of guilt. Their tendency, however, is to shift the guilt onto their accessories, onto the words themselves. For having first used words to put things at a distance, they then accuse not just their words, but all words, of setting up obstacles, of getting in the way of the unmediated relation with lived experience for which they yearn. And having thus rendered this experience wordless and thus tacit, it is left to sink into the inaccessible depths of the body. And the result is the opposition between verbalization and embodiment. The one allegedly explicit, the other tacit, that so much academic analysis has taken as its starting point. My objective, to the contrary, has been to restore both words and habits, ways of speaking and ways of telling, to practicality. Habits are no more sedimented in the body than words liberated from it. Rather, both words and habits are animate. They are ways of being alive. So let's not be afraid to meet the world with words. Other creatures do it differently, but verbal intercourse has always been our human way and our entitlement. Words are human things. But let these be words of greeting, not of confrontation, of questioning, not of interrogation or interview, of response, not of representation, of anticipation, not of prediction. This is not to say that we should all become poets or novelists, let alone that we should seek to emulate philosophers who, when it comes to their worldly involvements, have signally failed to practice what they preach, and for whom neither coherence of thought nor clarity of expression has ever been among their stronger suits. But it does mean that we scholars should work our words as craftspeople work their materials in ways that testify in their inscriptive traces to the labour of their production and that offer these inscriptions as things of beauty in themselves. Thank you.
As you are thinking about what to ask, I will ask.
I'm so sorry if mine is not so good because I don't speak English very often. Thank you very much for your conference. It is plenty of the history of philosophy since the Greeks. And I remember a lot of times of Heidegger, Gadamer, Michel Henry, Ricoeur, and how these authors can be so contemporary towards the critics of new theories of unionism, transhumanism, a severe increase of new forms of materialism. And I will ask you if is the possibility of comparing the concept of tacit with the non-said of Gadamer, or the silence of discourse, language, and the relation to the poetic, and how this concept shapes a new form or a new idea of humanity. And by other way, the concept of opticality, and the concept of reconnaissance, and or the concept of solicitude in Paul Ricoeur's theory, and how these two concepts can bring a new insight to a new paradigm of in bioethics, for instance, about the extinction of the human being as we know it. Thank you, and I think I was clear.
More or less, yes. To some extent, I can only throw the question back at you, and that is that when it comes to working out what are the parallels between what I've been saying and what has been said by Ricoeur, Gadamer, whatever, these other philosophers, that's a project. And I haven't done it, and having not done it, I really can't start outlining where they all converge and diverge, and am I saying the same thing or different things. And we're clearly all sort of oscillating, hovering around the same set of issues, and trying to find the right language to talk about them. And I wanted to come from a particular direction. I would leave it, in a sense, to the philosophers to work that out. The more important, I mean, in a way, triangulating between one philosopher and another is not terribly rewarding in itself. The more important questions are what all this, whatever language we use, what all this means in terms of our understanding of ourselves as human beings, and along with that, a bundle of ethical questions. And I think the thing that is really critical for me is, well, one way of putting it is to say that instead of treating humans as nouns, we have to think of the human as a verb. Humaning is something we do. And in doing that, we are continually creating ourselves, which has the ethical corollary that we carry a responsibility for it. So these arguments about that is a refutation of arguments for a fixed human nature. So, oh yes, we have a fixed evolved human nature, that's the way we are, humans are like that. And therefore, you can't blame us if this or that we do. I think that sort of human nature argument has to be decisively rejected. For me, that's where the battle lines lie at the moment, because in popular discourses on these matters, that human nature discourse is ascendant. In evolutionary psychology, for example, very, very popular. So my energies are focused on trying to explain why that really does not work and does not provide us with an ethically or politically or intellectually sound basis for carrying on. I think that's probably the best way I can answer that question.
Thank you.
I don't know why changing the line of the question, because I can, in fact, comment or ask you anything about what you said before reading. I even would be so audacious to ask you if you can give me a copy today for to go to my hotel read. But I have a curiosity. You, in a certain moment, you give this famous course of the 4A's, which gave the book making, I think, art, anthropology, architecture, and archaeology. And later, I see that you turned off archaeology and you substituted by design.
Yes.
What could be the reason? Sorry, it's not the question you have.
No, I can tell you why. It's unfortunately a rather, what do you say, prosaic, even bureaucratic reason. That I had written this book, and the book was based on a course of lectures that I taught in Aberdeen for some years, and I turned it into a book, and once the book was out, I can't really keep on giving the lecture course once the book is done. But then I was preparing the proposal to put to the European Research Council for funding for an advanced grant project. And this was knowing from the inside, and then anthropology, art, architecture, and design. Okay, so that was the moment when archaeology dropped out and design came in. Why? Because the group of people, and they were mostly former PhD students who had been working together, who I wanted to keep on working together as a group under the aegis of this project, were coming from those fields. We didn't have archaeology there, but we did have people who were interested in design anthropology, people with backgrounds in art and architecture. So I'm afraid that it was an entirely sort of, what's the right word, instrumental in that sense. We got us the grant. And if we put archaeology in there, we'd have to have a different set of people. What the people would have. That's it.
Thank you for your confidence. You will speak about music, and my question is what do you think about computer music and the research nowadays?
I'm trying to be diplomatic here because I have colleagues who do this work, and I'm very passionate about it, and I would say if they were sitting here, that probably everything I said about craft and music applies to what they do. They just use different tools, different materials. They would say that it's a craft like any other. It just happens that their tools, the computer, their materials are that can be generated. Myself, I'm a technophobe, and I find anything to do with computers deeply unsettling. And it might just be a question of the wrong generation. We got here that we've not been brought up with computers. And I have to say, when my colleagues who work in this sort of area of sound art talk about what they do, I sometimes have the feeling that I just don't get it. But then I have to admit that that's a temperamental thing. So when anybody asks about computers, I say, I don't understand computers. And so I shouldn't pronounce on something I know nothing about. So I'm going to evade the question, but only report, so to speak, ethnographically of people I know who work in that field. That what they tell me is that theirs is a craft, just like this. And even writers will say that what's the matter with word processing? And the terrible thing is that I'm doing it all the time myself. So I'm not even I'm a thorough hypocrite. But anyway, one thing I really am concerned about, and this is moving from music to writing, is that children are now not being taught to write by hand in primary school. And if we're talking about the future of our humanity, into a really practical thing, to translate it from high-flow philosophy into a practical question, should kids aged 5 be learning to write by hand, or can we say that that's all the past, now they should just learn to use the computer? To my mind, the loss of an ability to express one's being through the hand is a terrible. It's like imagining a society in the future where nobody was allowed to sing. And so, I don't know whether there's a musical, I don't think there's really a musical equivalent of that issue, but it does concern the extent to which this computing is taking over. Digitization, digital is taking over the world.
Is there also a loss when Westerners they started reading silently? Well, we lost the relation with the sound of the voice, reading the text, sound and text. And, this happened in the end of the medieval age, I think, and it was I think it was not only a change in the practice of reading itself, but of the text itself.
I think so, yes. Yeah. And in fact, I read one paper I read about this. It's quite fascinating because it did happen in late medieval period. That was the time when they began to introduce spaces between words on manuscripts. Yeah. So it was actually possible to see the words without having to read them out. In the old days, there were no spaces between words. So the only way to figure out what was on the page was to read, to treat the text more or less like a musical score. Read it, and then out loud, and then the words, you would hear the words. And then they started putting spaces between the words so you could actually see them, so that you could read silently. And one of the reasons for that was to do with espionage. Because if you had a secret information to convey, the last thing you wanted to do is to read it all out. So it was done by Queen Elizabeth I's spies, who all started reading it silently. Anyway, that's one sort of intriguing explanation. But moving on to the contemporary, there's much debate going on today about the importance of reading out loud to children. And it's sort of very well established that kids who've been regularly read stories to by their parents when they're young have a greater facility in all sorts of ways. And if they're not, they've really missed out on something. So that reading out, the reading out loud with the voices and everything is still crucial to literate understanding. And when I'm writing myself, I read the words I'm writing out, and if it feels wrong, if somehow the intonation, the rhythm, the prosody feels wrong, I said there's something that needs to be fixed. So that one is attentive actually to the sound of a word when spoken, even though one might be writing a text like this quietly. And again, I'm worried that a lot of writing specifically in what we are trained to do in the academy has lost touch with the sound words. Of course, you couldn't put that accusation to poets, or not, because they're good writers, they know about that. But for some reason or other, in the academic world, and I've even heard it said by reviewers that being, well, it was well written, but as though this was a trivial aspect of it compared with whatever problems there are in the content.
I would like to know about your relation with food, because there are a lot of references about food in your work, and I would like you to speak a little bit, please.
About food? My main problem about food is that I'm eating too much of it. I become thinner, and I'm always cooking, and useless, generally useless, anywhere near a kitchen. But more simply, I think that if I'm thinking of parallels, or the sort of parallels one could draw with what is going on in craft and in relations, ways of relating to materials, then what it goes on in the kitchen or what goes on in gardening, these are very good metaphors to work with, because specifically it draws attention to the way in which the activity is not geared towards the production of a final object. It is geared towards a continuing way of working with materials. So when you're cooking a meal, the meal will get eaten. Maybe just for a moment that people look at it and say, this looks very nice. But that cooking and eating is part of an ongoing life process in which the cook is relating to the materials in the kitchen, and then the eaters relate to the food on the plate, and life goes on. And it's the same with growing vegetables and these kinds of things that give us better analogies to think with than analogies that are often being used in the studies of material culture, which tend to come from museums, department stores, and things like that, where you've got objects on the shelf. That's the best actually.
Well, thanks, Tim. Fascinating, extremely stimulating, provocative talk. One of the things that I just wanted to take you up on, follow up on this last exchange, and then ask another question. You seem to think that tacit or personal knowledge or whatever is there basically just in order to reproduce something. Life goes on instead. It's gardening, it's the kitchen. But in fact, one of the people that you quoted, Harry Cullen, a colleague of mine, has actually done a lot of work on tacit knowledge in the sciences. So in order to create new knowledge, new things, in order not just to do, but to make. And here's the distinction again, that you need this tacit knowledge, and this tacit knowledge is in fact, on the one hand tacit, on the other hand communicable and communicated. It's not communicated through manuals, through textbooks, and through formal teaching, but it's communicated through contact, through repetition, through the fact that people who have that knowledge teach others how to do things. Something which Imre Lakatos described as Fingerspitzengefühl. So it's the thing that you have at the end of your fingertips, and that's what makes you create something else. So it's not just a question of repetition. There's much more to it than that. As a matter of fact, that is fundamentally, I mean, you wouldn't disagree with it. It just goes further along what you were saying, but I thought that you were sort of making it banal by just saying that it was a repetition, it was something that was part of a culture. Finally, you eat it, and that's it.
Oh.
So, whereas it's much more than that. It's much, much more than that. Secondly, I mean, I was a bit ill at ease with the last bit of your talk. We're talking about academia as a whole. I was wondering whether you could actually say any of what you said if you were speaking another language than English. Were you talking about English-speaking academia today, which is not all of academia, unfortunately, is invading the rest of the world? And this is an alarm call, so thanks for it. On the other hand, the problem is that the words that you were talking about are Anglo-Saxon words, use, meaning, etc. And the message that came across somehow was a defense against Latinization. Because the other words are words that are Latin, but in fact come from the French, which has been a whole trend in English-speaking academia, to bring in French words, to bring in French verbs and make French verbs into nouns, and then use them. Now, this is only English. So, you know, if you want to go back, then it's as if you're asking us to preserve Anglo-Saxon culture. I mean, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
this would be against any form of métissage, of mixtures, of bringing in new words. But I see where it's coming from.
Yes, it's okay. Now, the two, the second point, very good. The first point, I was just picked up on a casual use of repetition. That was not intended. I don't think there's any dispute that we're talking about and I've written about it elsewhere as a creative process where the creativity actually is an ecological kind. It's the creativity that lies in the dynamic potential of the whole field of relations, not in some X factor that's in people's genius's head. And again, I mean, there's no dispute about the necessity of fingertips knowledge, or whatever you want to call it. The problem is just about how to characterize it. And my beef is with the social scientists in particular, who've got wedded to what I think is a very stultifying notion of embodiment, which takes away the animism and dynamism, and above all the shareability and communicability in feeling or the possibility for people to share this kind of knowledge. And I think that I just feel that, like I said, tacit is a misnomer. It has the wrong connotations. Having said that, I own up again, thoroughly hypocritical. If there is ever a word that falls for it's like utilization instead of use, it's hapticality. I mean, a horrible word. And so I'm hoist by my own petard. I think it's a metaphor we use in English, which nicely combines both English and French. The question about language really is terribly important because it touches on, well, for one thing, on the way in which English has become a lingua franca, particularly not so much perhaps in the arts and humanities, but in the sciences. Where it's just expected. I remember having a conversation once years ago with an economist when I was on our UK Economic and Social Research Council, and there were questions about whether we should be funding people in learning non-English languages, and I talked to this economist who said, "What the hell is the point? You know, we're all working in English anyway. Why bother? It's a waste of money." So that these attitudes prevail and need to be challenged. I think my answer is that yes, as an English speaker myself, I'm sort of naturally going back to vernacular words like to use, which are deeply embedded in my language. And the thing is that this, it is like any language. English is nothing special about English here, but like any language, it's a thing of great beauty in which simple words have tremendous poetic power. And where if they're used to good effect, can really move us. But the lesson to learn from that is the same goes for any other language. And surely then that implies that if we're going to move in the direction that I'm advocating, then it has to be a direction where we plea for scholarship to be conducted in as many languages as possible. And to put the resources and the education into making it possible for people to, again, going back to the question about what to make of our humanity, for most of human history, the vast majority of humans spoke 5 or 6 languages. It's a very curious historical aberration today to find so many people basically monolingual. If we could find a way of getting back to a truly multilingual kind of world, then the particular problem that you identified would not go away completely, but it would at least be mitigated. And I think that's the direction we should go. So that people can write with their own languages, with their own mother tongue, with their own resonances and everything. And then other people for whom it isn't a mother tongue can still read them and enjoy them.
Thank you for the lecture. I was thinking, isn't there a dark side to all this communicating with feeling, practicality? Because as you said, there are good habits, but there are also bad habits. And Trump and Bolsonaro immediately came to my mind. They're masters in communicating both with the body and the emotions, but they're touching the worst in every one of us. And sometimes when we academics try to react against them, we immediately turn to our academic exercises of analyzing and separating and saying, oh, your tweet doesn't make any sense. But they're not working on that level, and they're working in another level. So how do we fight them? Because I agree with you, there are excesses in academia, but then again, now we have this worst kind of danger, I think, these haptic masters that are touching in everything we have bad inside of us.
Yeah, indeed. I wish I knew. I mean, we're all desperately searching for something because the moment it sees so whatever you try, it bounces back or washes off or whatever it is, and leaves us all in some despair. I mean, clearly, dry academic analysis might be okay in its own terms, but it's not going to turn the thing around. The only thing that strikes me is that it's to do with education. One of the discourses we hear a lot, and it particularly comes out, we hear it a lot in the UK around Brexit, where Remainers, people who want to stay in the EU, are branded as the elite, educated, expert bunch. In other words, because of the discourse we've had on social mobility and the importance of education to promoting social mobility, education has come to be seen as something that allows you to rise to the top of the heap and posture and pretend about how we're all liberals, we're educated, we know about things, we're wiser, and you not down at the bottom. You're uneducated sluts who are just responding to, and that just reproduces